CBS Tuesday.
CBS 46 News at 11 starts now.
Breaking right now, hours after the first protesters showed up, a live look at downtown Atlanta. Traffic is still blocked. Chopper 46 is flying over William Street near Ivan Allen Boulevard. A new video of a situation developing right now. Just moments ago, members of Atlanta police cleared protesters from an area where they had blocked in a tow truck caught in the crowd.
In some places, the crowds have thinned out a little bit from earlier. This was the scene at the height of those protests when about 2,000 people were standing face to face with state troopers trying to get onto Interstate 75. More new video on the ground of those protesters under close watch of police. We're going to bring you more new video throughout this newscast. It is impressive video as it comes in. Thanks for staying up with us. I'm Ben Swan.
And I am Sharon Reed. The CBS 46 News night team is here for you. We have reporters on the streets with the protesters and here in our newsroom as well. Gathering new information, we are pouring through video as it comes in.
Let's begin with the night team's Julian Johnson. Julian, you've been with these protesters all day, marching with them, and now you're on that scene, actually behind the line where those state troopers are. My understanding is the troopers have begun moving forward away from the freeway. Is that right?
The dynamics and the positioning here has changed over the past hour. Before, we were back this way, closer to the highway, but now things have been pushed up just about 50 or so yards toward the intersection of Ivan Allen Jr. and Williams. That's where that police line stands now with the protesters. How we got to this point, there was a wrecker that came in to take away a tractor trailer. The protesters became agitated with that truck driver because he was honking his horn for them to get out of the way so he could get to the tractor trailer. Now, when they backed themselves up voluntarily, the GSP officers, patrolmen, they moved in and backed that line up to keep it where it currently is. So that's how we got to this position. Also an update, we did see at least 2 people who were arrested, a man and a woman we saw being taken away in cuffs. It appeared that man didn't want to get out of the roadway when that tow truck was trying to come through, and troopers swarmed in on him and took him away. The woman, I couldn't exactly see what took place with her. But for now, it seems as though that line is still remaining peaceful. There are some pockets of volatility in there, people getting very emotional still, but for the most part, it is still remaining pretty peaceful out here, Sharon and Ben.
Julian Johnson, tonight we'll get back to you. In the meantime, we want to talk to somebody else, the man in charge tonight who's been monitoring the protests all day long.
Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed joins us now from the city's public safety headquarters. And Mr. Mayor, we've certainly seen throughout the evening, you had said earlier today protesters would not be allowed on the interstate. That clearly happened, but without any violence whatsoever. Were you surprised by that?
First of all, I'm just thankful to the women and men of the Atlanta Police Department and of the Georgia State Patrol. I think the level of restraint, maturity, and professionalism that they have shown really exemplifies the best in law enforcement. Over the last 2 days, we had 1,500 protesters yesterday, well managed, no arrests, very little property damage. Tonight, we had protesters as high as 10,000 protesters in the city of Atlanta. Our law enforcement personnel respected the First Amendment rights of these individuals, but also understand Atlanta's tradition as the birthplace of Dr. Martin Luther King, and really did respect the protesters, and I think that the protesters, for the most part, have returned that respect. So we've got a long night ahead of us, but we're going to be here all night until everyone gets home safely.
And Mayor, you've been out with the demonstrators tonight. How important was it for you, members of your administration, to have boots on the ground and be really embedded and talk to people tonight?
Well, Sharon, I think it's essential. There was a moment where I candidly was very uncomfortable when young people began to mount the truck. That caused me a great deal of concern, and what I wanted was for them to have a peaceful protest. I felt the protest was moving in a different direction. So I called the chief, I got in my car, and I drove down and I started talking to the young people. Met with 2 of the protesters. I had a lengthy conversation with them. We'll continue to meet with others. But, you know, there are certain moments where your gut instincts tell you that something needs to be done. And there was a man driving that truck, and it caused me to have visions of other protests when situations had gone badly like that. And I just wanted to remind people that we have been very respectful of them all day. The only thing that I have asked is that people not walk onto our interstates. I made it very clear earlier today that that would not be tolerated, because it really does put everyone's life at risk. It puts the protesters' life at risk. It puts the individual motorist who's just trying to get home to their families' life at risk. And it puts our law enforcement personnel's life at risk. And so I made it clear I wasn't going to tolerate that. Beyond that, we would be very respectful and have a soft touch. And I think we're going to get through the night.
The mayor of Atlanta tonight, not a single arrest this evening, not a single injury tonight, Mayor. We thank you for taking the time to join us. We know you're going to head back out there.
Thank you.
And now let's get to the night team's Christian De La Rosa.
That's right, Christian. What are you seeing from your vantage point at this hour? Where exactly are you?
Well, this right here is the very front line. You see Georgia State Patrol. They have moved their security line from where we saw them earlier near the ramp at the connector. They are continuing to push on forward. So you have some people that are trying to push back as Georgia State Patrol officers continue to push their line. Now I'm going to have Chris pan over to the left, okay, and show you the crowd as it has dwindled, it has dispersed, okay? So earlier we actually saw a situation where a tow truck actually drove in, was trying to make its way through the crowd, that driver, and he was not able to. The crowd pushed him back, okay? For the most part, the situation out here has remained peaceful, but you can sense that there is frustration in the crowd. You can sense that there are people that still want to make a statement. Earlier, we also saw the SWAT team moving in. The crowd started chanting and then dispersed. They started marching away. But at this point, the story here is Georgia State troopers are trying to move their security line forward, pushing the crowd away. But at this point, the crowd is attempting to hold on, hold strong, and attempting to push them back. Sharon, Ben, back to you.
Christian, let me ask you about the comparison now to what we saw earlier in terms of frustration. You and I talked about the fact that there were people who had not at that time become agitated because they had wanted to get onto the freeway but couldn't. Is agitation starting to grow at this point? It sounds like from what you're saying it is to some extent, or am I mishearing that?
So I think that you're asking about people's angst and want to try to get on the highway, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, and whether or not they're agitated.
Well, we'll take a look right here. Take a look right here. I mean, there's a lot of frustration here, but I can also tell you that the large crowd that was here earlier attempting to push forward and attempting to get on the highway has dispersed, and they have left.
Well, Christian, frustration is certainly one thing, but there's another side of this.
Tell us, because I've seen you guys back out here live. We have a gentleman that wants to. You're with the NAACP.
Yes, sir.
And you have been trying to keep things calm and peaceful out here.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about why you feel the need. Why is the crowd still out here, and what you make of the security line pushing forward.
So hold on. The reason why we're still out here is because we want to show not only the state, not only our nation, but the world, that when it comes to oppression, we don't get tired. You cannot back us down from fighting for ourselves, because we gave you, because we gave you the opportunity to fight on our behalf, but you chose not to. You chose not to listen to us. Your politicians, our elected officials, our state troopers, our police officers, ours chose not to listen to us. So we're out here to show you that regardless of what you may think, we're going to fight for ourselves.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Guys,
I respect you. And I respect you too. Guys, I'm going to send it back to you in the studio.
All right, and respect is the word of the evening, it appears. And the mayor talked about that, too. Respecting each other's position, listening, because these protesters, these demonstrators, these young people in many cases, they just want to be heard. not arrested, heard.
That's right. And also on the ground, the night team's Adam Harding. And Adam, the situation where you are you seeing what Christian is seeing as well? Growing frustration where you are? I know it's loud.
It's starting to move, Ben. I want to show you exactly what we're looking at right here, okay? As police are starting to corral us back a little bit, move us back a little bit. Again, we're right on the intersection. There's an ambulance right over here. We're at Ivan Allen and William Street, and the protesters have moved now several blocks away in the last 5 minutes or so. And we're just going to have to move our cameras out of the way so we can make sure that the ambulance can get by right through as the protesters are still out here at 11:15 tonight. They've been out here, many of them, for about 5 or 6 hours. They were closer earlier when we first got here. They were closer to the interstate. Then the state police barricade had moved back. Excuse me, sorry about that. And you can see that protesters are still out here. Now they're starting to move a little bit down William Street away from the interstate. This is the crowd. Let's walk you through some of the crowds right over here. Just give you a live look at how many people are still out here tonight, okay? So you can see the crowds are still going strong tonight. Some of them, all right, some of them are now starting to run down William Street. This is a far different scene than what we've seen for much of the evening. Many of them now, I want you to take a live look. They're starting to run now down William Street. I'm not exactly sure where they're going. I can see a large crowd off in the distance. Okay, as far as we can see protesters in the middle of William Street. Some of them run into the crowd right now. This is all in the last 10, 15 minutes for much of the evening. And we've been out here for several hours. For much of the evening, what we saw was large groups of people standing, many of them chanting, many of them singing. They stood right by the highway, right at that state police barricade. And right before we went on the air at 11 o'clock, we started to notice that state police had brought that barricade line up closer to Ivan Allen Jr. Boulevard, away from the highway. People were getting pushed back. And now it would appear there must be a barricade on the other side, because now we've got protesters coming back this way. So this is a very active scene here at 11:15. Many people are still out here. Many people are still protesting.
All right, we're having a little trouble hearing Adam Harding's narration tonight, but as you can see, people remain out there, remain very active and vocal. Adam talked about how some people were running in different directions. Of course, the other big aspect of this, the organization, where there is organization, it comes really on social media. Social media has been a huge part of the response to situations in Minnesota, Louisiana, and Dallas and beyond.
And certainly it was an avenue for people to express themselves in Atlanta tonight through these protests. And as Adam pointed out a minute ago, it looks like there is a little bit of a corralling going on.
Sure.
On one side, you've got state troopers and another barricade. So what we have to watch out for as we move into this late hour, folks, is whether or not that corralling creates greater agitation. The people who have gone home are the ones who feel like their voices have already been heard and they're done. It's the folks who are staying behind that we have to keep an eye on now.
The night team's Tracy Hutchins is sorting through the voices on social media. Tracy, what more are you seeing?
Yeah, and there is a lot of chatter on social media. Ben and Sharon, want to show you some of what we've seen tonight. We've been following this hashtag ATL is ready, and we've seen a lot of different groups, certainly from where Julian and Christian and Adam are. This is from, want to show you this picture, we'll enlarge it just a little bit, right there on Peachtree Street in front of the Weston Peachtree Plaza. A large group of people. You can see they're holding up signs that say, hands up, don't shoot. And this was less than 10 minutes ago. We do want to show you some of the other video that we found online as well. A lot of people walking down the streets. These are from people who are, again, filing under that hashtag ATL is ready. A lot of people walking down the streets. There's some more video, too. This was earlier in the night when you can really see the camaraderie among people. Want to get to that next video now and show you what's going on there, where you see a lot of people really saying, hey, we're keeping it 100. We are celebrating the fact that we can protest. Little guy right there with the 100 t-shirt on the hood of a car. So cute. A lot of people brought their family members out. And the last video we want to show you too is people dancing in the streets. And you can see a lot of people protesting, but also trying to make sure their voices are heard. And I do want to leave you with this as we come back to the big board here. This last image, a lot of people likening this protest today to, if you can see this image here on the right side, that is the Edmund Pettus Bridge, the March on Selma. And we do know how that ended. It took protesters during the Civil Rights Movement 3 times to get across that bridge. So certainly one of many pictures, Ben and Sharon, that we're seeing people likening this Black Lives Matter movement to the civil rights movement of decades ago.
Tracy, thank you for that. You know, we want to talk more about these protests and what's happening here with our public safety consultant, Mike Brooks, who is on the phone with us now. Mike, you and I, we spoke quite a bit earlier today at length about what the response would be from police. It has been relatively subdued, but I wanted to talk to you about the tactic here, the fact that we did not see riot gear, we did not see SWAT teams out there, helmets, batons, any of that. It was a face-to-face interaction with protesters. What say you?
I thought it was a very measured response and a great coordinated response, Ben, between the Georgia State Patrol, Georgia Department of Public Safety, and the APD. We saw the initial line right on William Street keeping the protesters from going on to the interstate, and that was the front lines of that was Georgia State Patrol and Atlanta Police motor units that were there, as we're seeing right now. So I thought there was a great deal of restraint. Just a short time ago, some protesters took the street back at Peachtree and International. Some of the Apex units of the reaction team for the Atlanta Police Department came up. Their officials told them to pull back and go ahead and let them have the street. They were not causing any problems. They were just go ahead and using their First Amendment right to march down Peachtree Street. But Mayor Kasim Reed also out there in the crowd calling for no damage to property and to stay off the interstate, invoking the name of Martin Luther King, who this is his home, and he said he would never take over an interstate. And I thought that was gutsy by the mayor to come out there, and he gained a lot of respect. I gained a lot of respect for the mayor tonight. But overall, Ben, I would say that the police response has been well coordinated and measured so far. But we've got a long way to go this evening.
I'm actually getting texts from people who are impressed with the mayor being out there. As we said, boots on the ground tonight. Mike, I want to talk about a little earlier in the day. I was with Frank Ski down at Centennial, and at the end, we were just offline, and he mentioned to me, and he said, you know, I don't see many police down here. And as soon as he left me, I immediately locked in on a familiar face that I knew in the crowd, dressed as a demonstrator, a member of law enforcement. Can you talk about that tactic and not wanting to perhaps be in uniform, but to be embedded with these protesters?
Yeah, there were a number of undercover officers who were in the crowd tonight, Sharon. And in fact, there was a code word that they were supposed to use should they get in trouble. If uniformed officers came up to try to quell something, they could use a code word to try to get those officers out of a hostile environment. But they're there just as the eyes and the ears of law enforcement, because a lot of what the law enforcement has been doing and their reaction to the different crowds has been heavily intelligence-driven, and that intel is coming from the plainclothes and undercover officers who are in that crowd, giving the information back to the Joint Operations Center. So the bosses of the Georgia State Patrol, Atlanta, and Atlanta PD, they can give a well-coordinated effort and put the troops and put the officers and troopers where they're needed to quell any disturbance and do it quickly. I also don't want to leave out also the Atlanta Fire Rescue. They have a response team. We've seen them going up and down William Street, Cortlandt Street just a short time ago. They, along with APD, responding to any medical emergencies and trying to get through that crowd, because also that's a tough job for them to do. And they are out there in lockstep with the APD and the Georgia State Patrol.
Stay with us, Mike. On the right side of your screen, a live picture we're looking at once again. Why? It's a point of pride, really, Mike, for the mayor, for law enforcement, the coordinated effort here. But why tonight does it seem like this has been so easy for the city of Atlanta and the mayor to declare you're not going to shut down the interstates, and yet there's no arrests, no injuries tonight? Other places, we've not seen that in the past. Ben and I talked earlier in the evening about the city of Ferguson. Not the size of Atlanta, we understand that, but why are they making it look relatively easy tonight to control the demonstrations?
It has looked easy, Sharon, but I can tell you from being in Washington, D.C., where we have demonstrations every single day, it's not easy. But there has been a lot of restraints on both sides. I would say I would commend law enforcement and their measured response and their response to this. But I also would commend the protesters for going along, for the most part, and cooperating with law enforcement And because I think they've seen that law enforcement are saying, okay, we're going to go ahead, we're going to let you demonstrate, but we're not going to let you damage any property. We're not going to let you get onto interstate. And those are the only two things that they told them basically they could not do. And they let them have the streets. They let them go ahead and do what they needed to do in marching around, Centennial Olympic Park, Peachtree, all around the city. And they're still out there tonight. But I think it has been a good cooperative effort, and I think it's a great step in the right direction on both sides, both with the protesters in the community, and it has been a very, very diverse group down there tonight too, Ben and Sharon, and I'm glad to see that. But a lot of restraint on both sides between law enforcement and the protesters.
Mike, one more real quick for you, if you could do this one quickly, but looking at where we're headed into the evening, a lot of the folks have gone home who were part of that protest earlier, especially that big crowd that was, facing off with state troopers. The question now for those who remain, from your experience, is that problematic that people are still sticking around, and what do you expect to see happen? Will there be a crackdown at some hour where police say it's time to end this?
Well, I think some of the organizers from the NAACP where they were trying to get some of the demonstrators to go ahead and disperse, said, okay, well, this is enough. But one of the other things that the law enforcement's going to have to look out for, they're going to have to look out for some of the crowds as they go back to some of the neighborhoods, or if they decide, hey, we've done a great job tonight, and they want to go out into maybe the Edgewood Avenue corridor, they want to go over to other parts of the city to kind of celebrate and blow up a little steam, since it's been so hot out there today. But I think that's some of the things that the APD are going to be taking a look at. But keep in mind, they do have reactionary forces that we're not seeing. So if something did happen of serious nature, they could respond with the proper gear. And I'm seeing also some of the back lines with Georgia State Patrol. I've seen a couple of the troopers with a vest on, with some crowd control agents, that kind of thing, should things get out of hand. But again, my hat's off to the Georgia State Patrol, APD, Georgia Public Safety, the Atlanta Fire and Rescue, and the protesters for a measured response on both sides tonight.
All right, CBS 46 public safety consultant Mike Brooks tonight with some valuable insight into the tactics of law enforcement. Clearly, they had a plan, and clearly they executed it tonight.
And we watched as it all happened live earlier this evening as state troopers had lined that access on William Street onto I-75, blocking protesters. And we've talked about this a lot, and I believe, Sharon, this does become, in many ways, a great example for law enforcement. The fact that troopers stood there, they stood their ground. It was face to face, it was eye to eye, and it was not violent. Protesters were heard, state troopers were respected, and those pictures right there that we're looking at live, or not live, excuse me, from earlier tonight, powerful images about what protests can look like in comparison to what it has looked like in some communities.
The city, the State Highway Patrol, and the demonstrators, it seems, in that regard, working in concert. And so far, things have been peaceful. We'll stay on this story, and when we come right back, we'll rejoin our network of reporters fanned out throughout the city.
$500 and a Subaru Outback from Subaru of Gwinnett could be yours. Just watch CBS 46 Morning News weekdays from 5 to 6 for today's top stories and team weather coverage of your local forecast. Then look for the code word. Log on to CBS46.com, enter the correct answer, and you could win a $500 Visa gift card. Plus, each winner will be qualified for the grand prize drawing of a Subaru Outback from Subaru of Gwinnett. Watch for your chance to win weekdays on CBS 46 Morning News from 5 to 6.
Attention for anyone who spent the July 4th holiday away and missed the Rooms to Go 60-month interest-free finance offer. Good news. We're extending it 3 more days. This Friday, Saturday, and Sunday only. It's your second chance to get great furniture, big July 4th savings, and finance interest-free for 60 months with low monthly payments. Really low. As low as $10 a month. That's this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Only at Rooms to Go. Don't miss it.
The Ford Freedom Sales Event is on. Hurry in for our biggest event of the year. Now get a Ford F-Series with 0 for 60, giving you freedom from interest. Plus, for a limited time, get a 1,000 smart bonus on specially tagged pickups. America's best-selling trucks 39 years straight are built Ford tough. During the Ford Freedom Sales Event, get 0 for 60 on Ford F-Series. Plus, specially tagged trucks get an additional 1,000 smart bonus cash.
Welcome back. We continue to follow the breaking news. Live pictures for you as the demonstrations, they continue tonight in the city of Atlanta. Earlier in the day, the mayor of Atlanta, Kasim Reed, announced a tactical plan. It was executed, coordinated by several law enforcement agencies, and indeed demonstrators tonight, Ben, do seem to be holding each other accountable and keeping each other in check.
It was a remarkable scene as you had literally thousands of protesters across from, in comparison, dozens of state troopers, and yet no violence, no arrests at this scene that took place on Williams Street just before the on-ramp onto I-75. And even at this late hour, as troopers have moved that line further away from the interstate, things remain peaceful as protesters make their voices heard.
But still a lot of people out there, and we'll stay on this story.
Certified Atlanta's most accurate forecast for the second year in a row. Now, CBS 46 Chief Meteorologist Jim Kosek.
Come sunrise, it shall be a dry start to the day, but very warm, going to hot. Rain-free to start, that's not the way it's going to end. Matter of fact, we have some wet weather even for the time being. Not widespread, but CBS 46 Doppler radar picking up on those pesky hit-miss showers, thunder showers, kind of skirting I-20 from Newton County eastbound. They are moving off to the east, by the way, so away from Metro Atlanta at about 30 miles per hour. Have one weakening shower around Forest Park, south of the perimeter. Oh, but the heavy, angry storms just coming on in through Dade County right now. These will weaken rapidly on their trek southeastbound, so I don't believe they're coming into the city, but a few spots across northwest Metro certainly can get wet, and it's all ending between 2 and 3 in the morning. Why so? Because the axis of the storm system, which is already east of Nashville, will hightail it into the Smokies. Now, if that weren't enough, a piece of this storm system in Oklahoma comes our way tomorrow, and the end result, more hit-miss afternoon and evening thunderstorms. But my 3-degree guaranteed forecast, all benefiting keepatlantabeautiful.org, 95 degrees. The problem? Feels like temperatures are 10 degrees higher than this, so parts of the area, especially south and east of the city, will be under a heat advisory tomorrow afternoon. Watch the hit-miss storms. Now, the coverage of thunderstorms increases Sunday and Monday. Therein lies the problem with damaging wind gusts and some trees coming down in a few areas, so please be careful out there. When it's raining cats and dogs, temperatures are no better than the upper 70s and lower 80s. But as the coverage to thunderstorms decreases for the middle and latter stages of next week, temperatures come right back up. So each and every day above the average high temperature of 89. So a hot summer continues, guys.
Jim, thank you. Hot and steamy summer. Let's go back to the live pictures. The protesters remain out. A great number of them remain out in force tonight.
And again, you see state troopers holding that line and not really holding it against an energetic crowd at this point. Far more energetic at earlier points throughout the evening. Things starting to wind down, it seems.
They are allowing people to speak freely, and in many cases, they have some harsh things to say about law enforcement. But we have not seen any arrests tonight. We've not seen any reports, and we're working to learn more, but no reports of injuries as well, as the mayor announced that plan, and law enforcement seems to be executing it tonight.
We will say that, you know, we've been talking about how there have been so few arrests. We had 2 people who were detained, at least. Our Julian Johnson spotted that. We do not know if they were arrested or merely detained. We'll keep an eye on it for you, and we'll be right back.
Weather and traffic at your fingertips with the CBS 46 weather app. Download it today.
All right, what do you think, boys? We could do tacos. We could do some Thai. Oh, how about sushi? Huh? I'm not having barbecue again. Why? Because you're on 4 legs and I'm on 2. And I'm driving. That's why. Sushi it is.
Lease a Navigator for $5.99 a month or get 0% APR for 60 months and just announced $1,000 summer invitation bonus.
Hi, welcome to Subway.
I'm gonna have to do steak and mushroom melt. I'm gonna do American cheese, try the 9-grain whole wheat, onions, green peppers, and tomatoes.
You're fast.
Well, I noticed on the menu it said limited time only, so.
We still have them.
The new Subway steak and mushroom melt. Handcrafted goodness that won't be available for very long. Subway. Fresh is what we do.
Ridiculous. Not as ridiculous as this deal, though. Such good value, $4. That's great.
The Hardee's $4 Real Deal.
It's Empire Today's biggest sale, the 50-50-50 sale. 50% off carpet and flooring, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation. That's right, half off your entire project. You can save thousands. Empire's 50-50-50 sale won't last long. Don't miss 50% off carpet and flooring, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation.
800-588-2300 Empire. Today. The CBS 46 Tour Atlanta Golf Card. It's the perfect gift or treat yourself. 18 holes at 9 prestigious Georgia golf courses for just $199. Don't miss your chance. Swing over to CBS46.com and click on the CBS 46 Tour Atlanta Golf Card.
We're following the situation here, but we are also learning more about the situation in Dallas tonight. The mayor of Dallas, Mike Rawlings, says authorities now believe a 25-year-old suspect in the attack that killed 5 police officers and wounded 7 others was the lone attacker.
Yeah, Rawlings says that when a gunman opened fire, there were people in the crowd of protesters carrying rifles and wearing protective equipment who turned out to not be involved in the shooting. Rawlings also says that the suspect used an AR-15 rifle. Police killed the suspect, Micah Xavier Johnson, using a robot that delivered a bomb after they say negotiations with him failed.
As we said, a much different situation both last night and here tonight in the city of Atlanta. Let's get back to our reporters on the ground here. We'll start with the night team's Julian Johnson. Julian.
Sharon, things here have kind of come to a stalemate. Officers continue their standoff with protesters. Here we are at the intersection of Ivan Allen Jr. and Williams. This protest has been going on for hours at this point. This line was previously closer to the freeway. Patrolmen were able to get that line back to its current standpoint. Again, the protesters are continuously chanting at the officers, trying to get their point across. What we've been seeing, though, is some of the officers coming off the line, grabbing waters, grabbing a quick bite to eat, and then going right back up there. There's been maybe 1 or 2 shift change where a group of officers will come off that line and then head out in some of their cars, not necessarily heading home, maybe to another point, but we are seeing kind of a steady flow of officers being rotated in and out just so that there are fresh men on that front line in the event that there is some sort of breakthrough that happens here. We saw a large group of protesters make their way up Ivan Allen. It appeared for a point that they were going to try to break through the line, but they made a last-minute turn, so any crisis there was averted. But again, things right now, stalemate, peaceful, and that's the way police would like to keep it at this point, Ben and Sharon.
The stalemate and peaceful is kind of where we've been throughout the evening, but we can hear a lot of yelling behind you, Julian, louder maybe now than it has been earlier. Is that just kind of people getting out the last of their frustrations?
A little bit of that, Ben. You will see there's one girl who keeps walking up and down with a Black Lives Matter sign. I can't find her right now, but she has been steadily just going up and down this line, and in every patrolman's face, she's putting that sign. Let's see if we can catch her. You see her right there, Charles? Kind of over this way. She has this sign, and she's going up and down the line, every single one, and just putting it right in their face. So there are still plenty of energy out here, but in the grand scheme of things, it is a lot more peaceful, a lot more quiet than it was earlier today. Back to you guys.
All right, Julian Johnson, thank you. Let's get to the night team's Christian De La Rosa. And Christian, what are you seeing from your vantage point?
Well, we're actually on the other side of that security line that continue to push forward toward this intersection. And I got to tell you, things are quite different to the way they were just an hour ago. Take a look at how clear the intersection is. The crowd has dispersed. Things are peaceful. Things are calm. A lot of people are just tired. They're even taking a seat on the ground. Of course, the goal tonight was to try to get on the connector and let their voices be heard and make a statement. That did not happen here tonight. Sharon, Ben.
All right, also on the ground, the night team's Adam Harding. Adam, what's it look like where you are?
Ben, it is starting to quiet down. I want to give you one live look. Right where we are about 15 minutes ago, we were live on the air. Protesters were running down the street. You can see behind me, it is all quiet right now. The protest continues, but not as loud as it was when we first got here hours ago.
All right, Adam Harding tonight. It has been an eventful day into the evening. And when you think about the enormous task at hand, what police had to deal with, how many people showed up, the heat, the humidity, and various factions. You know, you had the Black Lives Matter, you had the NAACP group, you had just young people on social media, reports that members of gangs were also there in the crowd marching, and no arrests tonight that we can confirm right now, and no injuries either.
It is remarkable to watch it happen. Someone who was in Ferguson, both of us there in Baltimore, a very different story here. We're going to keep our reporters on the scene, and you can always find the latest at our website overnight, CBS46.com.
Ben and I can talk about anything and everything. We don't have to agree. We hold each other accountable. He can say, I wish you would dig deeper on that. And I can say the same to him. We want to make each other better. We have fun together. I think you see that. We're like old friends. We get each other. We know each other. We balance each other. And we allow each other to be authentic.